114.
Mr. Chairman, the main purpose of the meeting today is to finalize the county projects. Orchard Hill, Sunnyside, and the city of Griffin have given us their final list of projects. We came up with a list the other day, and we mentioned to you at the last part of the meeting that we thought that perhaps we did not put enough money in for a swim center. So we have a very large presentation today for you on the swim center. But also I need to address with you, when we got down to allocating the remaining funds, I had estimated about 18 million. Really it was 19.4 million when all the pencils were pushed and everything was totaled out. I met with you, and we sent out an email recommending that since we took the money from roads to come up with the other projects, that you recommended that money go back into roads. So the list that you have in front of you has that money back in roads. We also need to address fees for King and Spalding and Todd Barnes. Those will be included in the counties for the issuance, for the bond, for the calling for the election, all the paperwork, all the research that they do for us, and so those funds have to come out too. But this listing here has a list of all the projects. We're working on finalizing the intergovernmental agreement. The city's attorney, Jim Pinnell, sent a couple of language changes last evening to us that we'll incorporate. But essentially, we'd like to have the intergovernmental agreement on the county's agenda for Monday night, and then pass it on to the cities to approve after that, so that we can be online for a resolution calling for the referendum. That intergovernmental agreement must be signed before we call for the referendum. TJ and his folks have prepared a great presentation that we've gone over a couple of times and tweaked for information on a swim center with alternatives for the board to consider. At the meeting last week, we went over the resolution, the minutes, and the wording of the motion, and it was an indoor swim center, $2 million. So that's what TJ started working with, and he's got some presentations for you on everything from exactly what they have now to all the way at the end of the spectrum for a full inside swim and slide area with 8-lane pools. So I don't know if there's any other information that the board wanted or needed today. If anybody has any questions before we start, I'll be happy to answer.
Any questions before we start the presentation?
No.
All right, TJ. Go ahead.
Morning.
Morning.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. We've provided you with a written list of resources that we've contacted in reference to this presentation. List everyone that we spoke to, and also all of the site visits that we have made and which staff member made those site visits. We do want to point out that no matter how many aquatic or swim centers we look at, there is none that are the same. So essentially whatever y'all decide on is going to be a unique situation. We've chosen to add into this presentation suggestions that are based upon case studies that we've made in reference to folks that we've talked to and visited. I guess basically here what I'm saying is that there's some baselines that can't change. 25-meter pool's a certain distance. We can't change that. We can't change it. We need a gutter system, not a skimmer system. But there is a lot of stuff that can change as you make decisions. We're just presenting baselines, and you can add or subtract numerous and multiple times to get exactly what you're looking for. Basically the same thing here. Anything that you want to build, we could build it to meet what you specifically are looking for. And then also, In this situation too, I think that we have a lot of opportunity to do some unique stuff to save money. The way that we purchase stuff prior to the project, choosing our contractors, we could do contractors that, say like in the Atlanta area, there's a lot of commercial pool builders, so we could use them, and they already have engineering factored into their prices, so we may be able to save money in the long run on engineering. There's a lot of stuff that we can do if we approach it in a different direction to save money throughout the project. What's at the city park right now? The existing swim area is indicated in the pink. It's 48 by 80, so there's 40 square feet of existing swim area. What we've done is actually just considered the swim area, the lanes, the part that's the diving well is not considered at all in our presentations. The existing water deck is indicated by the purple or blue line here. That's 9,000 square feet. We have used this number consistently for the presentation today, the 9,000 square feet. The building itself right now is 840 square feet, indicated by the yellow lines. This is the cost estimate for replacing what is existing now. We were due to 6 lanes, $885,000. This is for the water portion. Basically the pool, the pumps, the miscellaneous stuff you would need for competition. The lanes, the diving blocks, all that type of stuff. The building, now what's going to happen here is you saw that the building was 860 square feet. What's in there right now is the restrooms, men's and ladies, and an office. If we were to rebuild that, we would have to rebuild it per existing codes for ADA accessibility, for bather loads, bathrooms, you have to build a certain amount. So what I did was take a look at like something that was at Ty's Park, the soccer concession stand, and the bathrooms there, that's 3,900 square feet. So I pared that down to what we've seen in other facilities for how many showers they would need, how many toilets, how much room you need for ADA, and then a small office. So this number, of course, is obviously up for design, but I felt that that was a reasonable amount to meet current codes. The decking around there, these are all pretty simplistic as far as getting the prices up. Even though the water and that number includes the pool, it does not include the pump house to put the pumps in. Fencing, engineering. You'll see a disclaimer in all of our slides here. We may estimate engineering, but in reality, until we pick an actual project, location, what we're building, we're not going to know exactly what engineering is, what site work is, what furnishings we'll need. So you'll see that at the bottom of every slide that we do here. I did not include parking. The numbers are in there to represent what parking would cost, but it wasn't included in this final number.
TJ, what is the difference between the 100,000 and the 300,000 in parking? Is it the number of spaces?
Number of spaces, yes, sir. It's relatively known that parking's going to run you about $1,000 a space. So just depending on what location's chosen. And then here too, this is another area that I think that money could be saved. If you look at a lot of facilities where you know you're going to have a lot of overflow parking, you could do X amount of parking and pavement, and then the rest could be grass or some form of overflow type parking, gravel, and not necessarily pave the whole area. If you look, this weekend they have there's actually a swim meet at City Park this weekend, and I would estimate that there's a minimum, Beth could correct me if she wants to, minimum of about 500 people that are going to be there. So you're looking at 200 or 300 cars right there. I don't think it's reasonable to assume that we could build paved parking for every person coming to a meeting. So there is money savings there. Flat work is basically sidewalks around the facility. Yes.
Equipment.
Equipment there, it's going to be stuff like defibrillators, the initial emergency type saving equipment, first aid, stuff that needs to go around the pool deck. We're just, until we know what size facility we have, what our bather loads and capacities are going to be, we can just estimate these at at this time. Utility installation, this is bringing utilities onto the site. We'll have everything from sewer to water to electric to internet. Once again, these numbers would change, I would think, depending on what site we utilize. Stormwater retention, until we know how big the roof is gonna be, how much concrete we lay, we're not really gonna know these numbers exactly until we get those numbers into engineering. So what's there existing now, this is an estimate of what it would cost under current codes and regulations, 1.4 million.
TJ,
Yes.
what are the operations and maintenance costs for that for the month, for a month it's open?
Right now, we do have a slide on that. The
Okay.
city's budget is $81,000
Per month?
for the entire 3 months.
Okay,
And we do have a slide on it.
thanks.
These are some add-ons to that existing 6-lane pool that's there at the city right now. These are just options that would be available. Your base price is $1.4 million. If you did want to add whatever parking, a rubber membrane dome cover. This is the actual, what it would be is an actual blow-up type cover. That's $300,000. That would include installation. If we did a retractable roof, which we'll have a picture here in a second, it's $900,000. If we were to add a scoring system, this would be the scoreboard, touchpads, it's $40,000. If you wanted to add a heater, that would be $50,000. There's an example of the retractable roof. So any of these would be options that you can include onto that 6-lane pool. And if you were to actually do a traditional roof system, we would be at $2.5 million. That's not, it would be a total cost for the whole project, would be $2.5 million.
TJ, what the heater, would the heater be for the water?
For the water, yes. That would be a propane.
So,
Or either
This
natural
would-
gas.
Or natural gas, one of the two, yes. And, yes, ma'am.
okay, so this would go through the pump, the regular pump.
Yes, ma'am.
And TJ, that is, neither one of those are climate controlled inside the dome or inside the retractable.
The inside retractable, no, right, none of these. There is some climate control in the dome, but it would not be like what you would think, like you're walking into a building, in and out of a building. There's air circulation and that type of thing.
Because you have to have constant air to keep the dome
Yes.
up. Constant air.
You might have just answered my question, but I guess I want to understand the rubber membrane dome cover.
It's basically a balloon.
Okay,
It's an air system. They constantly pump air, like a jumpy house that you would have at a party. Air is constantly moving in there to keep the dome inflated. And then it includes a backup system if power goes out, so that it deflates at a certain rate for safety
so
purposes.
you could do that, you could have one of those and a retractable roof cover?
No, ma'am, it's just
Oh,
one or
so
the
you-
other.
Okay, I think that's what threw me.
There's somebody's got one of those before. Didn't they have,
I think Kendron used to have one. I think they've eliminated. Kendron is the one you and I are probably thinking of the most. Over in Peachtree City.
yeah,
Yeah, and I know they've been to several, and we've also, where I stumbled on the retractable roof, they actually had to go to that because storms took out 2 of theirs, and their insurance company would no longer insure, this is just site-specific, they would no longer insure a dome at that facility. That's how they got the retractable roof. But they are used. A lot of football teams and stuff will use them for a practice facility.
I could see where that rubber membrane dome could be. I guess when you're looking at the weather, it could be a big deal, a factor. I could see it would be more of a hazard than anything.
And the air that's in it is just the air temperature. It's not cooled, it's not heated, it's just whatever air from the outside.
Okay. And of course, you'll see this on all our numbers. Furnishings, engineering, site work is all going to be very variable. Okay, this is where the current operating budget is right now for the city pool. It's at $81,148 for FY 2014. The Griffin Gator swim team pays the city $10 per child per month for the pool use. 2014, they have 120 registered swimmers. And then there's also a Griffin Gators winter swim team that utilizes the Gordon College facility, and they pay them $5,400 for a 9-month period for usage. So they're 6 hours a week, I believe it is, for 9 months. So this would be the potential income from the swim team is a good baseline for that.
So between the two, we're looking at $6,600?
$9,000.
Yes, sir, 9,000.
$9,000 with a 12-month facility.
These are, what we wanted to do is try to get a good feel for what actual square footage prices would be for any indoor facility that we use or we build. So we consulted some folks, Manley, Spangler, and Smith, of course, is the local architect that did the senior center and has done a lot of work here in the area. They gave a range of 239 to 259 square foot. Lowson Associates, they're the ones who designed Tice Park, and it is a large consultant firm in the recreation field here in Georgia. Their number was 225 to 240. 2WR and Partners are the ones who designed the Harris County facility. They're at 215. What we, of course, none of these prices will include your engineering, site work, or furnishings. That would all be in addition to these numbers. For this presentation, all of our numbers are based on 225 per square foot. We felt that was probably a good range to go by. 8-lane competition pool. This would be your outdoor swim facility. This is if we were to build a new one. That's a picture of something very similar. It would be very basic. And this is actually somewhere in Atlanta. Our pool water size would need to be 67 by 83 for 8 lanes. This would be per USA Swimming. Your water area is going to be about 1.1 million. That includes the pumps and all of the accessories for the actual competition portion. Since we're building a 8-lane and we'll be using it a little bit differently, we factored in restroom, lockers, showers, storage, the concession area, offices, office for the county, office for the Griffin Gators. So what I did is the footprint at Tice Park Soccer is 3,900 square feet. It seemed as though once we looked at it that we would need to add 1,000 square feet. So this is based on a 5,000 square foot building as a starting point. The decking, pump house, fencing. Some of these numbers are very similar to the 6-lane facility. I did add the parking at $300,000 onto this number, and we did add the heater into this and the scoring system. So we're looking at approximately $2.3 million if we were to build an outdoor 8-lane swim facility. Eight-lane competition pool indoor. This would be the same facility we just looked at outdoors, but it would be indoors. This would be a similar look to it. Also, this happens to be Gwinnett County, but this would be, you could also use Harris County as an example. Basically, everything here will stay the same, except that I added an additional 1,000 square foot under roof in the building for lobby and hallways to access all the other rooms that would be in the outdoor complex. Once again, this could all change on final design. I included 10-foot decks on the ends and 20-foot decks on the sides. Just the pool and deck area alone under roof would be $2.47 million. If we were to add the additional space, looking at $3.8 million.
When you say the additional space, you mean the hallways?
Right, yes ma'am, there's 6,000 plus the 11,000 for the pool and deck.
include the lockers and everything?
Yes. Yes.
Shower rooms.
Okay, so in the previous slide, that was the outdoor pool, what size was the decking on the one that was $2,365,000? Is that the same size decking as that will be on the inside pool?
It would be similar, I don't have those exact, what we based that on was what they currently have. So the decking would be more than the inside. Because I wouldn't have to build, I brought my square footage down to bring the square footage of the roof down. So there is more decking on the outside facility because it's just less expensive.
Okay. And my other question is it tradition that you have to have this much roofing? I mean, there's a lot of open airspace on this, just in this example.
On the 10-foot by 20-foot, the decking around the inside pool?
No, I mean, the space from the water surface to where the top of this roof.
Oh, that could be an engineering and a design choice.
Okay.
You could bring down the ceiling. I don't think that the swim team, it matters to the swim team how much, how tall the roof is.
Yeah, okay. I was-
Right, yes, ma'am. And that could be something that you consider in the design to bring the cost down, absolutely.
Why would they have the higher roof? Would it be for rust and erosion? I think that's what they told me in Harris County. They did that because of the temperature and stuff, rust in the metal and stuff. They use more or less Butler buildings.
Yeah, correct. They're basically Butler buildings, but the coating is what's different. And I think it's everything, you're correct, plus aesthetics, plus airflow. It's all options that you choose. So there's no wrong or right answer here.
They had windows up on the side there that brought in sunlight, helped bring in sunlight.
Yes.
It cut down on the heat
Right.
expenses.
So, but you could also cut down the cost by lowering that roof, having less glass, less space to heat and air. So it's just a matter of the design process. Everything.
One thing
Oh, yes,
CJ
and no.
pointed out to me that I thought was very interesting is, the new technology for pools is salt pools. You can't use that on commercial pools. You must use the chlorine. And I don't know if you've ever been to many inside pools. When I was in Sun City up there, every inside pool you've ever gone to, when you walk into it, it hits you like all that chlorine smell. And Bart, you and I know what chlorine will do to a Butler building.
Well, it's salt water does the same thing. It's free native go salt water here in Kansas City because of rust.
Yep.
Rust from the.
Absolutely.
Right, so-
Gwinnett County has 9 aquatic facilities. They built one in 2005, and you would say they basically do everything right. They're bidding out right now to removing the entire roof structure of a facility because of rust, and they're going to rebuild it.
TJ, quick question. Back to the outdoor swimming pool. You included parking in that estimate, right?
Yes, I did.
Bottom right-hand side, you got plus site work, furnishing, parking. I just want to verify.
Right, and it is included, but we're just using guesstimate numbers, so we're not final on those numbers.
Understand.
So now we'll go to an outdoor 8-lane and what we're calling splash and slide. I think, well, the main reason we're including this is because if we're looking at operating costs, there's only a certain amount of income potential if we're just building what I would refer to as a swim facility only. If we can start to attract other people to utilize this facility, mainly families and kids with a splash and slide, then we can start looking at income potential. I don't know until we start operating if we could break even, but we would definitely have income coming in. And we know that that is a for sure thing, that we would be able to attract people to our facility. So we're using the same number that we utilized for the 8-lane outdoor package that we saw a couple slides ago. We would add the splash pad and slide type facilities. Next to it, design it into the design, that would be $750,000. Once again, I'm just estimating some extra engineering. Here's some examples of stuff that we could do. I would think if we would do this to even increase income potential more, we would actually build some pavilions throughout this area so that you could rent certain areas for parties and birthday parties and functions. Also adding some shade structures so that you could actually keep people there longer. We would have concessions tied to this facility so that we could make additional income and concessions. That would be very well for a facility that you're capturing the folks for 6 or 8 hours. Also build some indoor party rooms adjacent to this. This is just a configuration of two 20 by 20s. This would obviously, you could change this in the way you design the facility, but I thought some indoor stuff and outdoors would maximize our potential for income. And do other things for training if we want to train lifeguards or have certain types of activities like that. This is $3.4 million, plus of course our disclaimer on adjusting for other factors. And we would have a lot of design opportunities here, so this is just basic stuff right here. If we were to do that same thing indoors, do the 8-lane indoors plus splash and slide, we would take the number we've already utilized for our 8-lane indoor pool at 3.8, add about 4,400 square feet for your splash and slide area, so it's roughly about $1 million. Of course, here we got some extra engineering, about 4.9 million.
That's a 12-month.
12 months.
12 months.
And that would be indoor party rooms. Everything would be indoors so that you could go ahead and utilize this 365 days a year. Okay, this is, I guess we're calling it an alternative plan, but this may be the best of all worlds combined together. It would factor in all the pictures on this particular slide or things and components that I think could be included in this plan. We would go back down to a 6-lane outdoor pool. And that's what they're currently using is 6 lanes. Add the retractable roof. I think this would be extremely beneficial because then they could obviously use it all year long. But then in the summertime, basically in the mornings, you would open the roof. This would save us a lot of cost in air conditioning and having to deal with the air inside that space. And make it extremely flexible. A lot of people that use these facilities keep it open all day and they just close them at night so that you don't have the dirt and stuff coming into your pool area. It helps with maintenance, that type of thing. And then of course in winter this would be a heated area so that you could use it throughout the year. I did include parking in this number here. Of course that's adjustable. And then the splash and slide and the rentable pavilions type area. Threw in a number for that. I think you could do a lot of stuff here, a lot of income potential. I do have some engineering thoughts there. Do the birthday party rooms. These would be indoors, but they would be tied to the facility. You're looking at about 3.8 million. There would be a lot of benefits, I think, to doing this. Of course, the year-round swimming, and I think we would have a lot of opportunity for income every day of the year in this particular option. And I think it would satisfy a lot of the current needs that are out there. The swim team would be able to operate very effectively year round, and we'd be able to help offset some of our operational costs. We were asked to take a look at some solar information. I will say that I think this is a work in progress. I don't think you can do enough research on this, is what we're finding out. There's a lot to learn about it, so this is just a really basic start that we've looked into. One of the facilities we were asked to look at was the City of Griffin Waterworks. I've spoken with both the electric department director and the water and wastewater director, and also spoke with Public Works in reference to what they have out there. This is an aerial view of their solar at that location. They have a bi-directional meter. What we have found out in our research is that solar, the way that you handle it has got a lot to do with what part of the country you're at and what your power companies, who your power companies are, how they handle it. How it's handled in this area is you actually build your solar system, you install a bi-directional meter. The actual solar system is not used to directly power your facility. It's used to take the power that you generate, add it back to the grid, and then they give you a rebate at the end of the month. This is how it's done at this facility and how it would be done in this area. Their initial cost, and it was my understanding that most of this came from some type of stimulus grant that they received several years ago. It was $180,000. They advise that they're getting roughly 2% of the monthly electricity back from that one particular facility. So this ranges so much, I was told, because they just can't guess the weather and other environmental factors. They're getting a return here that they average out to be a 65-year return on investment on the $180,000.
What's the life span of a solar system?
I do not know.
It'll be 65 years before you get that return on your investment, so.
That is one. I did look into, we did find another gentleman that this Kyle Johnson was brought to our attention by one of the commissioners. We did find his company, Harvest Energy Solutions. He recommended as an example a 200 panel system with an initial installation cost of $170,000. They're averaging throughout the country about a $7,000 to $10,000 return yearly. So you're looking at about a 17-year return on investment in reference to that system. I do have a suggestion that we have not been able to find a government agency that has a large enough system that I think we could equate to a swim facility that we build. We're absolutely open for those types of suggestions and information. But one thing we can do is that I think we could look at some options when we build this facility. We could look at smaller projects within that facility. For instance, maybe we could do some of our exterior lighting with solar and actually hook it up directly. Maybe we could take one room in the facility, do LED lighting, and then put some panels on the roof and just power that particular room. I think there's a lot of different ways that we could go and actually incorporate some solar on a reasonable basis. We would just need to keep our options open.
I agree with you. I looked at as much probably on the internet and called around as you did. And you're right, it all depends on what part of the country you're in, what angle your building is in, and not here, probably not so much with the weather, because even with clouds you can get it. But basically I was looking at things that would power just a heat pump to keep the water warm, or that kind of thing. It's almost like you've got to pretty much aim for something in particular, some service or part of it that you want to have done through solar in order to be able to generate what you need to get out of that.
Yes, ma'am.
That's kind of what I got from that guy too.
And we're not afraid to be cutting edge, so I think we could use some cutting edge thought processes and ideas on this facility to incorporate some of that.
And I know these numbers are basically general, based on that square footage number that you gave us. But TJ, is there anything in this project do you think that we could value engineer?
I would believe there's a lot that we can value engineer. When we get to that engineering and design phase and to look at what we have the capabilities of doing, yes ma'am, I think that there's always that option. Once we figure out what our goal is for what we are designing, I think it's absolutely correct. So we did put some of those suggestions there. Operational costs to be considered. I know that y'all are looking for the exact number. However, I just don't see where that's going to be possible because we don't know what we're building yet. I can give you some information about Harris County, and I know that some of you have seen that facility, and we've based a lot of this information from there. They currently, and I understand that they do have more there than just swim. They have the basketball gyms, and they have some community rooms. However, if the building is open for one swim center or for the basketball and all, you still need the same person at the front desk. You still have some of the same things. They currently operate their facility with one certified pool operator who happens to also be a detail officer and utilizes a 3 inmate maintenance crew. And those 4 personnel are there all day. They don't go to any other facilities. They have 5,200 hours budgeted for their lifeguards. That's roughly $52,000. And then they have 4 front desk people, and those are 29-hour folks. So we would just extrapolate that out to whatever cost that is.
And TJ, what are their operating hours?
I don't know their exact hours. I think somebody here probably would.
6 o'clock on Monday till 8 o'clock. Tuesday, I think it's 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Wednesday, they're closed. Thursday, same thing. Friday, I think it's from 8 till 5, and Saturday.
Yeah, 2 days a week is 6 in the morning till 8 at night.
8 at night.
And then the other 3 days is like 7 to 7 or something.
Sunday, 1 to 6, 1 to 5, I think on Sunday.
I think one thing you'll see here in our operating hours is that I'm sure at some point the school system's gonna want to have their teams out there, and typically high school teams will start at about 5:30 a.m. And that's pretty consistent from what you find out there, because they practice prior to school. So yeah, I couldn't.
Yeah,
That can be done just like we do use their facilities, though. We don't have to have anybody there to open it up. They have somebody, we have keys to get in their building, so they would
Right.
have keys to get in the building. So
As long as they're
we don't
providing
have
a
to
lifeguard, because we would have to have a lifeguard present.
They got lifeguards with them. I mean,
Right.
you're talking about 14 to 18-year-old kids, so most of those people could be lifeguards anyway.
And
They
I-
utilize in Harris County, they utilize a lot of lifeguards from the swim team and from the school system.
Absolutely.
And they pay them a minimum of, I think, $8 an hour or something, eight and a quarter. It's part-time work, so. And this is a big issue, what it's gonna cost to operate. Splash money can help do it, but what it's gonna cost, and taxpayers of Spalding County cannot afford anything. This is something, I'm gonna tell y'all right now, we need to sit down with the school system and the swim team and talk to them and find out how we can operate this thing at a minimal cost. And it's, it's got to be a joint thing between all groups that's gonna be involved in it. And, they've got to contribute back into this thing, somehow, with it, for us to not be able to operate it.
I believe their budget right now is $275,000 in that facility, because obviously they offer a whole lot more than what
Yes, ma'am.
we're willing to do, so I'm sure it's not gonna be quite, obviously, that much, so, I mean.
That's the gym and everything.
So with us, it won't be,
So some of our staffing, things that we would need, of course, certified pool operators, certified lifeguards. There are some standard numbers of what needs to be present at any given time. And these are just suggestions at our part at this time. They're only suggestions.
Do we have a certified pool operator? Do we have somebody?
We used to have 2. One has retired, and one, their certification has expired.
So the only thing he would have to do is go back and get it. That's the only problem. This is one thing that he did, John told us. Every 3 hours, they have to check the chlorine in that water for balance, because they do have accidents that happen in the water. And once they do, they have to close the whole pool. He closes the pool down until they get it cleaned up.
Yes.
Adjust it, so, you can't be left there sitting with nobody there. Of course, they don't allow anybody in that's under 13 either. If they, 13 and over, they'll let them in by themselves, but 13 and under, they have to have a parent with them. And they have sent them home, John said. Parent, come drop them off.
Of course, utilities, is a factor, chemicals, and maintenance. You know, and it's a different style of maintenance that we're probably used to, where stuff will have to be done, even if it looks like it has to be done or not, just so that we can maintain the integrity of the operation. But of course, the insurance stuff that I don't think we know as of yet.
CJ, when we're talking about stuff like utilities, is there the potential, I mean, I know out at, the airport park, we sank a couple of wells out there to make sure that we're irrigating, and do the irrigation. Would that be a potential for us to be able to do that to help with our water sourcing?
I think that, it's my understanding, of course, I know there's people here in this room, clarify this for me, but I think that if you're on a facility that has access to public water, when it comes to public usage, that there's certain amounts of water that we will have to use from the public system. So I guess I don't know the complete answer to that question. I think there's gonna be some regulations that state if they've got a water line in front of the facility, that the water that our citizens are consuming has to come from that public water system. So I
Well,
don't think I
mean,
could
so-
fully operate it on.
So is that what we're doing at the airport track? I mean, the airport walking track? Or
Those wells are for testing of the flume
Right.
from rental uniform. They're not water wells. Those
Okay.
are, the only water well we have is to fill the lake at Wyoming-Attias Park.
Okay.
Everything else, even the irrigation at Wyoming-Attias, it can pull from the lake, but every time we've used it, it's been majority city water.
Okay. Well, I would definitely be interested in seeing what that ordinance is. Whether or not it means that we have to pull 100% or if we have to pull a portion.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I
That was a
believe
very
we're
good presentation.
open for questions. Yes, sir.
Okay, on the operational cost, we've got to know, we've got figures down for personnel, things of that nature. Based on what your research has been, based on, you know, what you're looking at for type, size, pool, operations, et cetera, what would be your bottom line estimate for an annual increase in the operating budget and maintenance budget of Spalding County for the pool
Maintenance and,
operations?
Maintenance, staffing, everything.
I think it would be reasonable to start our initial budget on utilities alone at the $10,000 mark per month. I think that would be a good starting place.
All right, so that's 120 for utilities. Any idea on chemicals?
Honestly, I've never,
I think what John and them figured was about $21,000 a year is what I saw.
okay.
And utilities, they did, this was a whole building, it's $9,000. So, you know, you're cutting it, a month, so I mean,
Well, depending on where you build it, you're gonna have stormwater fees and all that to go with it too, don't forget.
That's what
Okay.
the rough estimate is.
Maintenance? I mean,
No.
maintenance is kind of up in the air because
It's
you
kinda-
do a retracting roof line, that's a biggie. Because if something goes wrong with the track or something along those lines, and that's a lot of track for a retractable roof. But just give me your best guess estimate, minimum conservative of what you think maintenance would be.
I think at first it'll be more reasonable than it will be at years 3 and beyond, because at some point you have to start doing stuff if you want to or not.
Well, the first couple of years would be under warranty.
Right, it'll be under warranty and everything will be brand new. Honestly, I hadn't put a lot of thought into the maintenance number. One of the problems is I don't know what I'm putting a number on. I
Okay.
don't know what type of facility y'all want to build.
All right, so that's an unknown. And insurance, we're probably looking at $2,000 to $5,000
Yeah,
per year.
right.
All right. Personnel costs, you stated that as what?
Once again, we don't know what this type of facility we're building.
Just go with the numbers you gave us.
Well, I can assure you that if Harris County is using $52,000 worth of lifeguards, they're not gonna have the type of pool that if we're looking at bringing income, you know, where we could actually host probably 200 or 300 kids. So just in lifeguards alone, that could be up to $100,000, I would think. And then, of course, we have to decide what our level of service is gonna be. Is it just gonna be a person at the front desk? Or are we gonna have people to assist with parties and, for that type of income? So, I think you're gonna be minimum of, drop dead minimum's gonna be in the 200,000s.
Okay, per year.
Right.
That includes
And-
lifeguards.
Now, that's
Right.
with a 12-month pool.
12-month pool.
Yeah.
Right.
I think those numbers are kind of high, TJ, because, we look at Harris County and everything that they have in that facility. When they have parties for their area, they didn't have anybody supervising those, even in the room where they were able to host up to 50 people. And then if their utilities are only $9,000 a month for a 42,000 square foot building, which includes the gym with lights on and heating and, everything else, it's kind of hard for me. I guess they didn't have a stormwater bill, whatever, but it's hard for me to imagine that our utilities would be $10,000 for a square footage building that's half that size. So, I think these numbers are kind of elevated in that if their cost for staff for the gym and the maintenance and all of that is $50,000 a year, and they're open, basically, we're not talking about 24 hours a day, they're open 7 days a week, why would we expect that it's gonna be $200,000 a year for us in our facility?
Theirs was 50,000 for lifeguards.
Their lifeguards alone are 52,000. Now, I think if we were building a splash and slide, of course, all this is up for final design and interpretation, of course. But if we had splash and slide, your lifeguard ratio is minimum of 2 lifeguards for the first 50 users. That is a user, that is not in the water. That is any user that's within the vicinity of the water. And then you need 1 lifeguard for every additional 25 users. So I do not see where Harris County would have the type of usage that we would if we had splash and slide. I would easily think that we could attract 200 to 300 kids at a time. So right there, that's 4 for the first 100 users. So every 100 users, you're gonna need 4 lifeguards.
Okay.
So my lifeguard cost is gonna be considerably more.
Okay.
So that
So
would
that's-
easily be 100,000 or more, I would think. And then you're gonna need maintenance personnel at that facility at all times. A detail officers in the $30,000 range plus benefits. So there's 40, 50,000. So now I'm in the mid 100s. We're gonna need reception. Somebody's gonna need to be collecting our money at the front desk at all times. So I would think that this facility would be open almost 7 days a week, 6 or 7 days a week. So I'll need a staff of 4 or 5 people obviously they're only gonna be there at the front desk at one time, but I wouldn't want those people to be full-time either, so I wouldn't have to pay benefits.
Yeah.
So that's 4 or 5 29-hour employees. Then if we're going to cater to parties or to getting that income, somebody needs to give them some type of service. So I'm looking at additional staff there. So
What kind of service are we talking about?
somebody has to make sure that the room is clean, make sure that somebody's greeting them, making sure that people are moving in and out of those rooms at this set time. Just like you would operate any birthday type facility. Once again, that's all up to interpretation. I will run that facility how you all direct us to.
Okay, so.
So we'll
given the
provide
numbers-
whatever element of service that you all desire.
Okay, go ahead then with your
So,
estimation.
I'm over $200,000 right there.
Okay.
In salaries.
Just in
TJ,
salary.
with that, we talked about the potential income from, rental rooms, pool, pool engagement, getting in the pool, swimming, splash, the splash pool and all that. Use of the swim teams, et cetera, et cetera. What would you estimate, the best you can with what the information you have, would be the average return from outside, the average return of revenues?
I think how I'm gonna answer that question is that as you go around the state and look at facilities of this style, folks that offer those amenities come close to breaking even. They come closer to breaking even than if we didn't have those amenities. I would think what we've seen is prices for daily use range from $4 to $7, well, actually $4 to $10 per person. I would guess my official answer would be that you could probably reasonably decide you're gonna come close to breaking.
But we were coming close to breaking even means a deficit, is what I hear.
I've only found one facility that breaks even that we know of at this time, and that's in Cumming at their aquatic facility.
Okay.
Now, you said you would be charging $4 to $7 per person.
Per
Well,
day.
we've seen
Per day.
$4 to $10 per person, depending on what
So, I
facility
mean,
it
that
is.
means every single person that uses the facility,
That includes mama coming with 5 kids.
Correct.
That's,
everybody that comes in.
Right, and we even see that if you're renting like the birthday pavilions, the birthday rooms, that charge is in addition to the entry fee. Yes. If we're looking to break even, or, I'm never gonna use the word profit, because I don't think that's possible.
What's the current charge at City Park now for people that want to come swim?
At
$1?
$1.
And everybody that uses it pays that $1, Kenny?
Except for the kids that get to come in free, based on what we've been donating to the,
All right, so if we were to continue to do well, if we did it, if the counties provide the money for that, then that would just come out of the county's budget, but I was going, I guess it.
You can't let them in for free, I can tell you
No.
that. I mean, that's-
yeah, I think that, you know,
I see that being a problem.
you know, we're kind of speculating here on what the return is.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess my first question is, does the senior center pay for itself?
Not to my knowledge.
Do they come to close to breaking even?
no.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right, there's lots of options. In Harris County, they have membership. And no one, you know, you can be a member from another county, but it costs more to be a member. But, you know, you can get a family membership, you can get a single membership. If you bring somebody with you and you're a member, they have a cost based on whatever. So I think that those things can very easily be worked out. Relationships with the community. I mean, I think if the community comes in and uses the pool, they still have a minimum cost. And those are things that we